Breaking news. Eric Bischoff has now reported that his relationship is not good with AEW.
That's a shocker.
I'm thinking, oh, he said he's been highly critical of the product. I'm thinking, well, if that's the case, that everybody's relationship's bad with them. If that's the case,
Hey, I'm telling you, the more people look at Tony Khan, the more people look at Vince Russo because he's always sticking his nose out there to get quoted. Eric Bischoff comes off as an absolute genius.
absolutely he does. And I hate to admit it, I have in fact agreed with Mr. Bischoff more often than not here lately. I
Yep,
mean, I really have.
I agree with that.
The only thing Vince Russo, I read a little thing on Vince Russo, and he said in the thing, he said, "What's wrong with the wrestling business is they let anybody into the wrestling business."
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Wow.
And
Yeah,
I
I
was
mean, he's not wrong about that, but he was the one who was working in the business at WCW, letting people in there doing stuff with him that should never have been hired. So
exactly,
shut up.
exactly. It's crazy what's going on in the world of professional wrestling. I was thinking, I got a message. For some reason, Facebook is hard to get messages on. I don't know what's went on with Facebook, but it might take you a week before you actually see the message that come in from
Yeah.
somebody. And they ask, well, let me ask you a question. Why do you think you can talk about professional wrestling? Well, let me ask you, why do you think Dave Meltzer can talk about professional wrestling? Now, listen, I'm not a movie producer, but I know when I see crap. I mean, let's just be honest. I've watched some of those movies. I've seen stuff that was horrible. What makes people believe, Jack? And I'm asking you this question: what do you think that people believe that whatever Dave, I think, I think Jim Cornette calls him Uncle Dave or something. What makes people believe what he says is the gospel, so to speak?
I have as yet to understand that. I think it's just that those who really don't understand the business are looking for a consistent news source, and you have to give him that. He's consistent. He puts dribble out every single day, uh, and sometimes he's right. He's not always wrong, but boy, there's a lot of tracks off the truth that he follows.
Do you think, Rodney, today that Dave, instead of telling you what really is the truth, what I believe he did do years ago, a little bit more than what he does now. It's just because the AEW is his friends and they call him on a daily basis, and that's the reason everything that is said about Dave about AEW is because he's their friends and he don't want to hurt their feelings.
No, I think that he's telling them what he wants to see, and they're doing it. I think that they're listening to the moron. I mean, the brilliant person. I mean, anybody who cannot see now. He was talking about house shows. I think Meltzer was. He was talking about the house shows. AEW is going to try to promote more of them in a year, and the fact, and of course, I think he had a point in the conversation that what they're going to put is the generic bums out there, which means that MJF would be headlining a lot of cards. So the fact of the matter is that he's right. You cannot put. I mean, you could go to the smaller towns at 300 people, but if you don't have any on the card, you're not going to draw the 300 people either. And the question is, why would you do house shows if you don't mean them to draw? That makes no sense whatsoever. And again, I think they're listening to Meltzer. And of course, I would contend that most of the wrestlers that are on the contracts that's been seen, that I guess you would call the top tier, they don't want to do house shows. If it's not TV and pay-per-views or big shows, they don't want to do them. They don't want to do them at all. If there's not a camera there, they don't want to be a part of it.
They have positioned themselves, Rodney, and I want to. Has the WWE positioned themselves as bad guys, as the bad guys? And that's the reason when someone leaves there, it's just like they're the big old bad WWE against the wrestlers.
Sure, and that's the way it is everywhere, though. I mean, if you're talking about if the people leave Apple or what have you, it's I was wronged by this company. They've treated me wrong. Mandy was wronged by that company. If they would have only let her spread her legs on television, the ratings would have exploded. Just exploded. There would have been explosions everywhere. It would have been amazing night. Would have been amazing nights. She's just felt like that. She did not show her potential. That's the reason she's had to FaceTime, where she shows her potential over and over and over again.
And always come out like you've never come out to the ring before.
That is correct.
Looking like you've never walked down an aisle. Like you're shocked that you're coming out to the ring. And
I will tell you in it. And
I saw a big boxer come out to the ring. He never did something so stupid.
Well,
he knew he didn't run out of all his steam coming to the ring.
Well, I think to me the I think highlight of the entire year has been Gunther. You talk about the tremendous throwback, I think, to what a wrestler is, and of course that's what he calls himself. He calls himself a wrestler, which I thought was brilliant.
And look at that response that he gets every time he comes out. It's that's they appreciate him. They may hate him, they'll boo him, but man, fans appreciate what he's trying to do.
Well, I have been very impressed. I've thought that his presentation, it isn't one of these run down the rings. We're not pointing all over the place. The two Stooges with him, though, I think bring him down. But that's just in my opinion. We have to have groups. We can't go to our ring by ourselves. It would be, we'd be like,
heaven forgive that we have an actual dominant heel that doesn't need help.
Oh, it's true. That's absolutely true. I just felt like he was a true highlight.
Two guys, but I agree with you that he doesn't need them. They need him, but he doesn't need them.
The one thing that I think he needs to, and of course this goes back to where how we were brought up. He needs a hold, whether it be a claw hold or something, a go-to hold that I've noticed. That's the only thing right now he's missing, and maybe through the year they'll develop it. That's the only thing I see he needs to do. Maybe Cobra Clutch or Claw or something to that degree.
He won before he got to the big leagues.
Very possible.
The only other bit of news that I saw was that AEW is going to change the presentation of their product, the visual, I guess the set, the whatever. They're completely redoing everything. There's a video out there giving a tease to it, which I was so overcome with emotion I could not click on it. I think the biggest change they need to make, though, is not in visual, but and maybe getting some actual fans to get them over that million mark that they seem to be so close at times, and then it's like custard in retreat.
It's when you look back at 2022, the missed opportunities that happened there. Adam Cole missed opportunity. Daniel Bryant missed opportunity. CM Punk missed opportunity. Just never did anybody right that came in that was over from WWE. And people say this, and they say, well, it's a completely different fan base. But see, this is the problem that I get with that. If it's a completely different fan base, then why did the guys get such a response from the WWE guys when they came there? If it wasn't a WWE fan base and they didn't know who WWE was and they didn't know who Adam Cole, they wouldn't know how to say, hey, baby. They wouldn't have knew to do that. So it's not a different fan base. It's just the same fans.
Right.
Just pure and simple. It's the same fans. They may say bad things about WWE, but they're still watching it.
Oh, yeah. I also want to bring up the Ric Flair documentary, the new one on Peacock. Have either one of y'all seen that?
I ran into it today.
Is it on? Where is that at?
It's on Peacock.
It's on Peacock?
Yeah.
Okay, now is that one of those ones you have to pay for?
It's according to what service you have. If you have Comcast, I think it's still free. You're supposed to start
God, I
paying
don't
for it,
have
but
that,
they
so I
haven't
would
hit
have
me
to
yet.
pay to see Ric Flair. Is that what you're
Yeah.
trying to tell me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
Now I will say this. I thought this was a very good documentary. I don't think it showed Ric Flair in the most positive light
Oh,
because he came off several times very sexist.
hmm.
Even talking about how at 72 years old he could still get plenty of rides on Space Mountain and stuff like that, and his wife is sitting right over there close to him. But the documentary does go in and they talk to family members and they talk to friends and they talk about how he doesn't seem to be able to separate uh, Ric Flair from Ric Flair. And he admits in there that he doesn't know even who he really is because he has become this character. He worked so hard to become this character that character is all that he knows how to be. But and he admits with all his medical problems that he's not going to quit drinking. He's not going to quit having a good time. Hulk Hogan talked about the schedule that he still has with appearances, and people pay him to come to Vegas for parties
Yeah.
and just all kinds of stuff. He said he travels almost as much now as he did when he was wrestling. He's always on the go. But it was sad also that when they talked to the kids about how much of their lives that he missed, and we all know how when you're on the road, you have to actually make that time to be at home. You can't go party. You can't hang around with your buddies. You need to go home to your wife and kids and spend as much quality time with them as you can. Rick never had those real priorities. Not with his oldest kids. Now with his younger kids, he did, and it there was a lot of sad things. I felt sorry for him when they were talking about when Reed died and other points in his life. But you can see pieces of the real Rick come out when he talks about his parents and what great people they were. Yeah, and it seems like there's a real person in there that just doesn't know how to get out from that limelight that he enjoys so well. And I feel sorry for him about that because we've all seen that. Every dressing room we've been in, there's been one, two, three, or more, that actually believes their publicity,
Yeah.
and that's sad.
Bill Dundee said that one time. He said everyone starts believing. They just start believing in themselves that
Hmm.
they're bigger than they really are. And he said, then finally you eventually get put down to where you and it's good. I think if it wasn't for Ric Flair's, I think son-in-law, I'm not for sure Ric Flair wouldn't be there. I believe that he is the catalyst for Ric Flair to stay where he's at. And Conrad, I think Conrad helps him out a lot. And
Yeah, I think he does too.
I think if it wasn't for Conrad, Ric Flair might be in some major, major trouble.
And from what Megan, that's his daughter that's married to Conrad, from what she said, Rick does try to come and spend as much quality time with his granddaughter. I believe he only has one grandchild, and that's Megan's daughter. Tries to come and spend as much time as he can with her. She even talked about how when she was 10 years old, Rick bought her this expensive cell phone. And she said, Dad, she's 10. She doesn't need a phone. And he said, if that girl needs to talk to Papa, then she needs to have a phone where I can call her anytime she wants me to, or she can call me. And so she just left it alone. But she said they have an amazing relationship. And that's good and I'm sure that granddaughter probably sees the more real him than we ever will.
Yeah, yeah. You can't take away Ric Flair and what he kind of what his name meant to professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Still to this day, there's people that go, woo, and they'll say, I'm doing the Ric Flair. Even news programs will even use his likeness sometimes when they're talking about.
Well, you know, he has transcended wrestling. He is really a part of the American culture, you know, Americana, if you want to put it that way. But, you know, there are people, and that was said in this documentary, there are people out there that have never watched wrestling or don't like wrestling who still love Ric Flair, the character of it, you know, but, you know, they're not fans of the industry, maybe never watched one of his matches, but they sure know who he is.